The sound of laughter and clinking glasses echoed through the high school gymnasium as Kevin Newsome stood frozen at the entrance, clutching a wrinkled invitation that had nearly ended up in his trash can. At 42, with premature gray streaking his dark hair and a suit jacket that had seen better days, Kevin felt wildly out of place among the sea of successful-looking former classmates of Westridge High's class of 2003. "Dad, why are you just standing there?" His 15-year-old daughter, Lily, tugged at his sleeve. "I thought you said these were your friends." "They were, sweetheart," Kevin said, swallowing hard. "It's just been a long time, 20 years to be exact. 20 years of life's unexpected turns, of dreams deferred and replaced by more pressing responsibilities." After his ex-wife had walked out 7 years ago, leaving him to raise Lily alone, Kevin had poured everything into being a good father. His once promising career in architectural design had been reduced to freelance drafting work he could do from home, ensuring he'd never miss a school play or parent-teacher conference. "Well, I think this is cool," Lily declared, her eyes scanning the transformed gymnasium. "And you promised I could hang out in the library after we said hello to everyone. They have that new manga section you said I could check out." Kevin smiled at his daughter. Despite their financial struggles and the absence of her mother, Lily had grown into a thoughtful, perceptive teenager who somehow managed to be his biggest cheerleader. "Just a quick appearance," Kevin assured her, straightening his tie. "Then we'll get you to those books and maybe grab some real food afterward. The babysitting money from Mrs. Henderson won't stretch to a fancy dinner, but we could hit that diner you like." Lily's eyes lit up. "The one with the chocolate milkshakes, deal." Taking a deep breath, Kevin stepped into the reunion. A banner proclaiming Westridge High School, 20 years later, hung above a makeshift stage where a DJ was playing hits from their graduation year. Round tables draped in the school's blue and gold colors dotted the floor, each adorned with photo collages from their senior yearbook. "Kevin Newsome, is that really you?" A tall man in an expensive suit approached, his smile revealing perfectly whitened teeth. "Brian," Kevin recognized his old football teammate. "Good to see you, man. You too, what have you been up to all these years? Last I heard you were headed to that prestigious architecture program at Cornell." Kevin felt his daughter's curious gaze. "I did for a while. Life took some turns. I'm doing freelance work now, mostly residential drafting." "This is my daughter, Lily." Brian's eyes softened as he shook Lily's hand. "Pleasure to meet you. My wife and I have twins, but they're only 8. Teenagers seem like a whole different universe." "We're just visitors from another planet," Lily quipped, making both men laugh. As Brian drifted away with promises to catch up later, Kevin guided Lily through the crowd, enduring similar conversations with varying degrees of awkwardness. Yes, he had started at Cornell. No, he hadn't finished. Yes, being a single dad was challenging. No, he wasn't currently working on any major projects. "Dad, can I get some punch?" Lily asked after the 5th such exchange, clearly sensing his discomfort. "Of course," Kevin replied, grateful for the interruption. "I'll grab us both some." He made his way to the refreshment table, fighting the urge to check his watch. Coming here had been a mistake. Everyone seemed to have followed the expected path to success: careers, marriages, vacation homes, while he struggled to make rent on their modest apartment. "The punch is terrible, just like it was 20 years ago," came a melodic voice from behind him. "Some traditions never die." Kevin turned, punch cup in hand, and found himself staring into achingly familiar hazel eyes. For a moment, the gymnasium, the music, the entire reunion seemed to fade away. "Penny," he whispered, hardly believing his eyes. Penelope Wilson, now apparently Penelope Walsh. According to her name, Tag stood before him in an elegant black dress that managed to be both professional and stunning. Her auburn hair, once flowing past her shoulders, was now cut in a sophisticated shoulder-length style that framed her face perfectly. The years had only enhanced her beauty, adding a confidence that radiated from her posture. "Hello, Kevin," she said softly. "It's been a long time." A lifetime ago, they had been inseparable from junior year through the first 2 years of college. Penny had been his first real love, the person he'd planned a future with, until circumstances and youth had driven them apart. "I didn't expect to see you here," he managed, trying to sound casual while his heart hammered in his chest. "I thought you moved to the West Coast." "I did," Penny confirmed. "Seattle, then San Francisco. I've only been back in town for about 8 months." She glanced at his left hand, noting the absence of a wedding ring. "Are you here alone?" "With my daughter, actually," Kevin said, gesturing across the room to where Lily was now chatting with the school librarian, Mrs. Peterson, who apparently hadn't retired yet. "Lily's 15. Something flickered across Penny's face, surprise, calculation, perhaps both, but her smile remained warm. "She looks like you, same eyes." "She's smarter than me, though," Kevin said with genuine pride. "Straight A's even with all we've." He trailed off, not wanting to dive into their financial struggles. "Dad," Lily appeared at his side, excitement in her eyes. "Mrs. Peterson says I can check out books even though I don't go to school here. She's going to show me the new manga collection now, if that's okay." Kevin smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm. "That's fine, sweetheart, take your time." As Lily rushed off with the librarian, Penny's gaze followed her. "She seems wonderful." "She is," Kevin agreed. "The best thing in my life by far." He hesitated. "What about you, family, kids?" Penny shook her head. "Never married. My career always seemed to take precedence." A slight shadow crossed her features. "Sometimes I wonder if that was the right choice." Before Kevin could respond, they were interrupted by a tall woman with a camera. "Penny, we need you for the most successful graduate photo by the stage." Kevin raised an eyebrow as Penny looked uncomfortable for the first time. "Most successful graduate? It's ridiculous," Penny said, waving a dismissive hand. "Just because I run a company now, they're making a big deal." "Run a company," Kevin repeated, genuinely surprised. "What kind of company?" The woman with the camera interjected. "Only Wilson Tech, one of the fastest-growing architectural software companies in the country. Our Penny here is revolutionizing how buildings are designed." She tugged at Penny's arm. "Come on, the committee's waiting." "Give me a minute, Sandra," Penny said firmly, not taking her eyes off Kevin. When the woman reluctantly stepped away, she continued, "It's not as impressive as it sounds. I just saw a need in the industry and developed some software to address it." Kevin stared at her, memories flooding back. "Your senior project, the 3D modeling program you were working on. You remember that?" Penny looked genuinely touched. "Of course I do. I remember telling you it could change everything if you got it right." He smiled, feeling a mix of pride and something more complicated. "Looks like you got it right." Their conversation was again interrupted as the reunion committee chair took the stage and began calling for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, Westridge High Class of 2003, we have some special recognitions tonight for classmates who have truly excelled." Penny touched Kevin's arm. "I have to go up there, apparently, but can we talk more after this?" Kevin hesitated, thinking of Lily, of their plans to leave early, of the uncomfortable feeling of being surrounded by success he hadn't achieved. But Penny's eyes held his, and 20 years seemed to collapse into nothing. "I'd like that," he said finally. As Penny walked toward the stage, Kevin noticed for the first time the respectful glances that followed her, the whispers that accompanied her movement through the crowd. On stage, the committee chair lavished praise on our own Penelope Wilson Walsh, founder and CEO of Wilson Tech, whose architectural software is now used by firms in 42 countries. Kevin watched as Penny accepted a small trophy with gracious humility, giving a brief speech thanking her former teachers and classmates. She never mentioned being voted most likely to succeed in their senior yearbook, though Kevin remembered it well. She joked then that they'd both succeed together, him designing buildings, her creating the software to render them. Life had other plans. As the formal presentations ended and music resumed, Kevin found himself approached by several classmates he'd barely spoken to in high school, all suddenly interested in his connection to the successful CEO. He deflected their questions politely, watching as Penny was similarly cornered by former cheerleaders and football players eager to claim closer friendship than had ever existed. Finally, Penny extracted herself from the crowd and made her way back to him. "Want to escape for a bit?" She asked quietly. The courtyard should be empty. Kevin glanced toward the library where Lily was happily immersed in books. Just for a few minutes, Lily will be fine with Mrs. Peterson. The school courtyard hadn't changed much, the same stone benches arranged around a central fountain that no longer worked. The spring evening was mild, the sky darkening into twilight as they sat side by side. So, Penny said after a moment of companionable silence, tell me everything I've missed. How did Kevin Newsome become a single dad who looks at his incredible daughter like she hung the moon? Kevin laughed softly. That obvious, huh? It's a good look on you, she assured him. Fatherhood suits you. For the next half hour, Kevin found himself telling Penny things he rarely shared with anyone, how he'd left Cornell after 2 years when his father's heart attack had required him to help with the family's struggling hardware store. How he'd met Rachel at his drafting job and married her perhaps too quickly. The birth of Lily that had changed everything for the better. Rachel's growing restlessness and eventual departure when Lily was 8. She sends birthday cards, Kevin said with a shrug that didn't quite disguise the hurt. Calls maybe twice a year. She's in California now with her new husband. It's better this way, honestly. Lily and I have our routine. Penny listened without judgment, her eyes never leaving his face. And your architectural dreams. You were so talented, Kevin. He looked away, uncomfortable with her perception. Dreams don't pay the bills. I pick up enough drafting work to keep us afloat. It's not what I planned, but... He smiled, thinking of Lily. Some unexpected turns work out okay. And others? Penny asked softly. The question hung between them, loaded with 2 decades of unspoken history. Others I've regretted every day, Kevin admitted, finally meeting her eyes again. Especially losing touch with you after everything. Penny's breath caught. I thought you might be angry with me still. The way we ended, we were young, Kevin interrupted gently. Both stubborn, both convinced we knew best. The argument that had ended their relationship had been about exactly that: his decision to leave Cornell and return home, her insistence that he was sacrificing his future. She'd offered to help financially. His pride had been wounded. Words had been said that couldn't be unsaid. Distance had done the rest. I was wrong, Penny said, surprising him. About so many things, I thought I knew what success looked like, what mattered. It's taken me 20 years, and building a company from nothing, to realize that professional achievements feel hollow without someone to share them with. Kevin was saved from responding by the appearance of Lily at the courtyard entrance, her arms full of books. Dad, Mrs. Peterson says I can check these out for 3 weeks, she called, approaching them with curious eyes fixed on Penny. Is this your friend? Kevin stood, making introductions. Lily, this is Penny Walsh. We were close in high school and college. Penny, this is my daughter, Lily. Your dad and I were just catching up, Penny said, smiling warmly at Lily. He tells me you're quite the student. Lily beamed at the attention from this elegant stranger. I like school, especially science and art. She studied Penny more closely. Were you guys, like, dating or something back then? Kevin felt heat rise to his face, but Penny laughed. We were. For almost 3 years. Your dad was the most talented architectural student in our program. His designs won 2 major competitions. Lily's eyes widened as she turned to her father. You never told me that. Ancient history, kiddo, Kevin said lightly, though Penny's words had stirred something long dormant inside him. Not that ancient, Penny corrected gently. In fact, she hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. Kevin, my company is opening a new office here in town. That's why I moved back. We're looking for designers who understand both the artistic and technical aspects of architecture, people who can help bridge the gap between traditional design and our software capabilities. Kevin stared at her, understanding slowly dawning. Are you offering me a job? I'm suggesting you come in for an interview, Penny clarified. I can't just hire you because we have history. My board would have my head, but I remember your talent. If it's still there, Wilson Tech could use someone like you. Lily clutched her books tighter, eyes shining with excitement. Dad, that sounds amazing, Kevin felt overwhelmed. Penny, I appreciate the thought, but it's been years since I worked on anything substantial. My skills are probably outdated, and your company is at the forefront of making architectural design more accessible, Penny finished for him. Who better to help us refine our approach than someone who understands the challenges of balancing creative vision with practical reality? She reached into her clutch and extracted a business card. Just think about it. No pressure. Their fingers brushed as he accepted the card, and Kevin felt an electric current of recognition of possibilities that had once seemed foreclosed suddenly reopening. "We should get back inside," he said finally. "I promised Lily dinner after this." The diner with the chocolate milkshakes, Lily supplied helpfully. Penny's smile widened. "Armstrong's on 5th Street. They still make the best milkshakes in town." She glanced between them. "Would it be terribly forward of me to invite myself along? For old time's sake?" The hopeful look on Penny's face mirrored something in Kevin's heart, a chance to reconnect, to see if what they'd once shared could be rediscovered in their very different lives. "I think that could be arranged," he said, feeling lighter than he had in years. At Armstrong's diner, under the glow of vintage neon lights, Kevin watched as Penny and Lily bonded over chocolate milkshakes and a shared love of graphic novels, something he hadn't known about Penny. "I collect vintage comics," Penny admitted, seeming younger and less corporate as she enthusiastically described her prized first editions. "My assistant thinks it's ridiculous that half my office bookshelf is dedicated to them." "Dad says hobbies keep us human," Lily said, slurping the last of her milkshake. "He still sketches buildings sometimes, late at night when he thinks I'm asleep." Kevin nearly choked on his coffee. "Lily, what, you do?" His daughter shrugged unapologetically. "I've seen the drawings in your desk drawer. They're really good." Penny's eyes met Kevin's across the table. "I'd like to see them sometime, if you wouldn't mind sharing." The evening stretched longer than Kevin had planned, with Lily eventually excusing herself to the restroom, leaving the former couple alone. "She's extraordinary," Penny said softly. "You've done an amazing job with her." "She makes it easy," Kevin replied, then hesitated. "Penny, about the job." "I'm flattered, but I'm not sure." "Kevin," she interrupted gently, "when we were 20, I made the mistake of thinking I knew what was best for you. I won't make that mistake again. The interview offer is genuine, but it's entirely your choice. No expectations." He studied her face, seeing the successful CEO but also the passionate, stubborn girl he'd fallen in love with 2 decades ago. "Why did you come back here?" "Really?" Penny's confident facade slipped, revealing something vulnerable. "The company's story is true, we are expanding here, but personally." She took a deep breath. "I've spent 20 years building something significant, but lately I've been wondering what it's all for. Success feels different than I imagined." "How so?" "Emptier," she admitted. "I have a corner office with a view of San Francisco Bay, but no one to call at the end of the day to share my victories or disappointments." Her fingers traced patterns on the Formica tabletop. "Coming back here wasn't just about business. It was about reconnecting with parts of myself I'd left behind." "Including me?" Kevin asked quietly. Penny's eyes met his, honest and clear. "I didn't know if you'd be at the reunion. I hoped, but..." She smiled softly. "Seeing you there with Lily, looking at her the way you do it reminded me of what I've always admired about you, Kevin. Your capacity to love completely, to put others first. I've missed that. I've missed you." The simple confession hung in the air between them as Lily returned to the table, oblivious to the moment she'd interrupted. "Can we get pie?" she asked hopefully. "They have 4 kinds today." Kevin laughed, grateful for his daughter's perfect timing. "We can split a slice." "School night, remember?" As they shared apple pie a la mode, the conversation shifted to lighter topics: Lily's upcoming science fair project, Penny's disastrous attempt to learn surfing in California, Kevin's part-time coaching of the middle school basketball team. By the time they finally left the diner, nearly 3 hours had passed since their reunion encounter. "I should get this one home," Kevin said regretfully as they stood in the parking lot, Lily yawning beside him despite her protests that she wasn't tired. Penny nodded, then surprised him by pulling out her phone. "Give me your number, not for work purposes," she clarified quickly. "Just, I'd like to see you again, both of you," she added, including Lily with a warm smile. As Kevin recited his number, a strange feeling of déjà vu washed over him. How many times had they exchanged numbers as college students, upgrading phones but always making sure they could reach each other first? "I'll call you." Penny promised, her voice holding a question. "I'd like that," Kevin answered, providing the certainty she sought. Lily, despite her fatigue, was alert enough to observe this exchange with evident satisfaction. "You should definitely call him," she told Penny with teenage directness. "He doesn't go out much." "All right, social director," Kevin said, gently steering his daughter toward their car. "Time to go." Penny's laughter followed them, and as Kevin opened Lily's door, he looked back to see Penny watching them, illuminated by the diner's neon glow. She raised a hand in farewell, and he returned the gesture, feeling like something important had just begun. The following weeks brought changes to the Newsome household. Penny called the very next day, and soon a pattern developed: dinners together twice a week, weekend outings that included Lily, and increasingly, moments alone when Lily was at friends' houses or activities. 3 weeks after the reunion, Kevin took Penny's suggestion and interviewed at Wilson Tech. The process was rigorous. Penny had been serious about no favoritism, but his natural talent, combined with his practical experience in residential drafting, impressed the design team. He was offered a position that would allow him to work primarily from home, coming into the office only for key meetings. "I can't believe this is happening," he told Penny one evening as they walked along the riverfront park, hands entwined like they'd never been apart. "A month ago, I was just trying to make ends meet. Now, she prompted, stopping to face him. "Now I'm designing again, really designing, not just executing others' visions." The excitement in his voice was unmistakable. "And Lily? She's thriving with the stability, with knowing we don't have to worry about rent each month." Penny smiled, but there was a hesitancy in her expression. "And us, where do we fit in this new picture?" Kevin studied the woman before him, brilliant, successful, and somehow still the same Penny who had captured his heart at 19. "That depends," he said carefully, "on whether the CEO of an international tech company is interested in building something long-term with a single dad who's just finding his footing again." "The CEO is very interested," Penny replied softly. "But more importantly, the woman who has never stopped wondering what if is absolutely certain." She reached up to touch his face. "I let pride and ambition separate us once, Kevin. I won't make that mistake again." He kissed her then, beneath the park's string lights, feeling decades of regret dissolve into possibility. When they finally parted, both were smiling. "Lily's going to be insufferably pleased with herself," Kevin said with a laugh. "She's been dropping hints about you since that first night at the diner." "Smart girl," Penny observed. "She takes after her father." 6 months later, on a crisp autumn evening, Kevin stood in his new office in the modest but comfortable house he and Lily now called home. The room was filled with drawing tables, computers equipped with Wilson Tech's latest software, and walls adorned with his designs, some from college, preserved by Penny all these years. Others new creations that combined his artistic vision with technological innovation. "Still working." Penny's voice came from the doorway, where she stood holding 2 mugs of coffee. "Just finishing up," he said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "The Singapore project is almost ready for presentation." Penny set her own mug down and wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder to study his work. "It's beautiful, Kevin. The integration of green space with the urban elements is exactly what they're looking for." He turned in her arms, kissing her softly. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could," she corrected him firmly. "Your talent was always there. It just needed the right opportunity to shine again." From elsewhere in the house came the sound of teenage laughter, Lily and her friends working on a group project in the kitchen. The domestic sounds filled Kevin with contentment he hadn't known was possible. "Have you thought more about what we discussed?" Penny asked, a hint of nervousness in her voice. He smiled, knowing exactly what she meant. 2 weeks earlier, as they'd lain awake talking about future plans, Penny had suggested making their arrangement permanent marriage, a legal adoption of Lily if she was interested when she turned 18, perhaps even expanding their family. "I have," Kevin confirmed, "and the answer is yes." "To all of it?" Penny's eyes widened. "Really?" Even the possibility of more children. Kevin, we're both in our 40s now and happier than we've ever been, he finished for her. Age is just a number. Look at what we've accomplished in 6 months. You've opened a successful office here. I'm designing again. Lily is flourishing. Why put limits on what else we might create together? Tears shimmered in Penny's eyes as she kissed him, pouring 20 years of lost time and newfound joy into the embrace. Later that evening, after Lily's friends had gone home and the three of them sat around the dining table sharing a meal, Kevin reached for Penny's hand. "Lily," he said, catching his daughter's attention, "Penny and I have been talking about our future. How would you feel about making this arrangement more permanent?" Lily looked between them, fork paused midway to her mouth. "You mean like getting married? It's about time." "I was wondering when you'd get around to asking," Penny laughed, the sound bright and joyful. "Your dad and I are thinking beyond just marriage. We're talking about becoming a family legally, officially, all of us." Understanding dawned on Lily's face. "You mean, like adoption?" "You'd want to adopt me, only if that's something you might want," Penny added quickly. "When you're ready, of course, and perhaps someday if you were open to it, a little brother or sister." Lily's expression transformed from shock to delight. "Are you serious? That would be, wow." She set her fork down, suddenly solemn. "But what about your company? Wouldn't having a family complicate things?" Penny reached across the table to take Lily's hand, her other still firmly in Kevin's grasp. "The company is important, but I've learned what truly matters. 20 years ago, I chose career over love. I won't make that mistake again. Some success can only be measured in moments shared and lives intertwined." Kevin watched the two most important women in his life share a look of understanding and felt his heart expand with gratitude. From a reluctant high school reunion to this moment of perfect clarity, life had come full circle in the most unexpected way. 1 year later, on the anniversary of that fateful reunion, Kevin stood in the backyard of their home, watching as guests mingled on the lawn decorated with string lights and flowers. Lily, now 16, moved confidently among their friends and family, proudly introducing herself as Lily Newsome Walsh. "Penny's looking for you," his friend Brian said, approaching with a glass of champagne. Something about a surprise announcement. Kevin smiled, knowing exactly what the announcement would be. "Thanks, I'll find her." He made his way through the crowd, accepting congratulations on their recent wedding and the continued success of their collaborative work. Kevin's designs, enhanced by Penny's software, were gaining attention in architectural circles worldwide. He found Penny near the rose garden, radiant in a simple blue dress, her hand resting protectively over her still flat stomach. "Ready to tell everyone?" he asked, sliding an arm around her waist. Penny leaned into him, her happiness evident in every line of her body. "More than ready." "Think Lily can keep the secret until then? She's been bursting to tell her friends about becoming a big sister." "She's managed this long," Kevin chuckled. "Another 10 minutes won't kill her." As if summoned by her name, Lily appeared beside them, accompanied by Mrs. Peterson from the high school library, who had become a regular visitor to their home. "Everyone's waiting," Lily announced excitedly. "Dad, Penny, it's time." Together, the three of them moved to the center of the gathering. Kevin looked around at the assembled faces, old classmates who had become new friends, colleagues from Wilson Tech, Lily's teachers and schoolmates, neighbors who had welcomed them into this new chapter of their lives. "A year ago," he began, his voice steady and sure, "I walked into a high school reunion, a reluctant single dad, just trying to make it through the evening. And I attended as a CEO who had everything except what truly mattered," Penny continued, squeezing his hand. "They were both kind of a mess," Lily added, drawing laughter from the crowd. "But sometimes the best things come from unexpected second chances." Kevin smiled at his daughter's perfect summation. "We gathered you here today not just to celebrate our marriage, but to share news of our growing family. Penny and I are expecting a baby this winter." The announcement was met with cheers and applause, friends surging forward with congratulations and well wishes. Later, as the party wound down and the first stars appeared in the evening sky, Kevin found himself alone with Penny on the porch swing, watching as Lily helped the last guests find their cars. Happy, he asked, though he knew the answer from the peaceful contentment in her eyes. Beyond words, Penny replied, nestling closer against him. 20 years ago, if someone had told me we'd end up here, you designing award-winning buildings, me running a company that helps architects realize their visions, us creating a family together, I wouldn't have believed it possible. I would have, Kevin said softly. Even then, I knew what we had was rare. I just didn't know the path back to it would be so long and winding. Penny placed his hand over her stomach, where their child grew stronger each day. Some journeys are worth every detour. As Lily bounded up the porch steps, full of excitement about the party's success and plans for the baby's room, Kevin felt a profound sense of completion. The struggling single dad who had reluctantly attended his reunion had found not just professional renewal, but the restoration of his first and greatest love. In Penny's return, in Lily's joy, in the promise of their growing family, he discovered that sometimes life's most precious gifts arrive not on the timeline we expect, but exactly when we need them most.